Everybody, please take a look at your screen. This is Jaliek Rainwalker. If you want to know more about his case and his mysterious disappearance and my opinion on what may have happened to him, please continue watching.
You are watching Roll a Mile in My Shoes TV.
I'm pretty sure if many of us can remember back to 2007, November 1st, that was a normal Thursday night for many of us. Most of us probably had to go to work or school, whether it be college classes, high school, what have you, but I'm pretty sure it was a normal night for most of us. But unfortunately, this was not the case for 12-year-old Jaliek Rainwalker. And unfortunately, as well, it might not have been a normal night for his then adoptive father, Stephen Kerr. Now, I have to first off start by saying that for some odd reason, I just get a bad feeling about this man as well as his wife while I was researching this case, because when they describe Jaleel, when they were, talking about him and things that might help identify him, it is noted that he has or had a speech impediment, which would make him pronounce his W's kind of like an R, or excuse me, his R's like a W. And so if he were to say, a word with an R, it would sound like he was using a W at the end of the word. And I just find it really strange that also when I was researching this case, I found out that he was prone to, I guess, what some would call anger outbursts. And his adoptive mother did not want to allow him back into their home for a short period of time while his dad was supposed to be out of town for maybe however long it was. I think it was a week. And so he was put into the care of another foster family who also were, I think it's called respite. That is where if you have an adoptive child or a child with special needs and you are their parent or their caregivers, you would receive something that's called respite, where they would have someone else take over their care for a short period of time to give the parents or caregivers breaks in between that, so I guess they don't get burnt out. And apparently, since Mr. Kerr was supposed to be out of town for a little while, he, couldn't take Jaliek with him, I guess. So the mother, she not wanting to have him, or didn't allow him back into the home, he went into the care of a respite family for this short period of time. And unfortunately, this family had a daughter who ran track at the time, and they had to go to her track meet out of town, and they themselves could not take Jaleel out of town with them, so they had to return him back to Mr. Kerr. So they did so with plans of picking him up the next week after they came back into town from that track meet. and they met Mr. Kerr in the parking lot, or they were supposed to meet Mr. Kerr in the parking lot of the, I think it's the Best Western hotel. And when they pulled into the parking lot, they noticed that Mr. Kerr wasn't in his van. He came walking out of the hotel, and the father of the respite family, said that Mr. Kerr seemed annoyed because they instructed Jaleel to put his bag into the van, because the van was unlocked, mind you. And when Mr. Kerr saw him or them going into his van, he became angry and asked them what they were doing. And I guess they explained the situation, and then they drove off, and they said that was the last time they saw Jaleel. Jaliek. And after that, Mr. Kerr's side of the story is that he and Jaliek went to his father's house a little whiles away. And then on the way there, Mr. Kerr was talking to a friend, and he was basically giving the friend a harsh assessment of what was going on with Jaliek, and the fact that he was going through adolescence. The friend said he didn't pay much mind to it. He thought that he was just talking to a friend about his child or whatnot. It's also important to note that before they went to Stephen Kerr's father's house, which he was letting them use for that amount of time and while he was away, they went to a restaurant that's called Red Robin. I don't know if it is something that is a national food chain or if it's only in certain places in the country, but this is a place where they serve burgers, fries, and many other things. And there was a server by the name of Katie Bonesteel, and she said that when she saw Jaliek and Steven, she noticed that it was very odd because Jaliek was, in the corner of, I guess, because they were sitting in a booth. He was in the corner, and he was like, basically, curled up, kind of, so to speak, like he was uncomfortable. And she said that she could tell that, I guess it was either his father or whatever, but not for the reasons you might think, because, they don't really look alike. But, she could tell that he was uncomfortable with this man. And she talks about that, and she says that, she didn't really think much of it, even though Steven was speaking for Jaleel the entire time, because I guess, she had to ask, what would he like to order to eat. And she said that she didn't think much of it at the time, but now that she thinks of it, she noticed that Jaleel didn't eat much of anything, if he ate anything at all. And she really didn't think much of it until probably a few days later, when her boss told her she needed to come to the restaurant because, police officers wanted to speak with her. And that's when she actually learned Jaleel's name and that he was missing. And I know this might not have anything to do with the case, but I also want to point out that Jaleel's foster mother is the same woman who is married to Mr. Stephen Kerr, the same woman that didn't or wouldn't allow Jaliek back into the house while Mr. Kerr was away. Her name is Jocelyn McDonald. And if you have guessed it by now, no, they do not have the same last name. And I'm wondering, why is that? And that is very strange, because not too often do you hear couples who are married that don't have the same last name. I mean, you might hear of a couple or a woman, particularly who hyphenated her last name, but she does not have the same last name as Mr. Kerr, which I find very strange. And I really would like to know if there is a backstory to why she does not have this man who she's married to's last name. Now, remember when I said earlier that Jaliek was known for his angry outbursts? The night that he went missing, before he supposedly went to bed, because that's the last time his adoptive father, Stephen Kerr, said that he saw the boy. He found a note the next morning that was, I guess, in his handwriting that said, "Dear everybody, I'm sorry for everything. I won't be a bother anymore. Goodbye, Jaliek." And the authorities obviously confirmed that this was in the boy's handwriting. Now, the question I have is, how do we know that he wasn't forced to write this note, or this goodbye note, and before whatever happened to him? Because it is really strange that, he was prone to these angry outbursts and things of that nature. And, I'm just surprised at, the fact that he wrote this and, just ran away. But according to the dad, the last time he saw him, he was, had gone to bed. With everything I know about Jaliek having a speech impediment and his anger outbursts, I do have to ask and also wonder, was that a factor in him going missing? And by that I mean, was that the reason why his parents potentially got rid of him, and covered it up by saying he ran away, and forced him to write a note in his own handwriting before doing so, to make it look like he just left because of everything that was going on, and, make it look like, maybe he got tired of the situation. And I also have to wonder that they also spoke about him making sexually explicit comments to a student in his homeschooling group. Now I have to wonder, where did he learn these sexually explicit comments from? Was someone molesting him before he got to this family's home? Or was someone in this home molesting him, when he got to their home, and that's why they decided to adopt him? These questions I do have to ask, as well as, was it the fact that, they wanted to cover this up, because not knowing that, he was, you know, had a speech impediment, so they probably felt like, since he had a speech impediment and anger outburst, no one would believe that he was being, touched or molested in this home. I also have to ask the question that if he did really write this note on his own, what was he referring to when he said he was sorry about everything? What could have possibly gone so bad that he felt the need to run away, if he did so at his own free will? And my question also would be, where was he going? Because there's not many places the child could go, being from the foster care system. It's not like he had any contact with relatives, or even if his relatives stayed in the same area that he did. I also have to ask these questions because it does, bring up some questions as to where his remains could be located if he's not alive anymore. But if he is, he would be 27 years old, and he would look drastically different by now. And if I can find one, I'm going to insert an age progression of what he might look like by now. And I also forgot to mention that it is very strange that these same two people who were supposed to love, care, and protect this child also began the paperwork after he went missing to put him back into foster care, which would cut ties with him because they had begun paperwork, like I said, to unwind the adoption process. And, in turn, this would make him have to go back into foster care. And I don't know if he was told this or not. And I don't know if that was a reason for him to choose to run away, if he did so, or if they felt like putting these papers into motion would take the heat off of them and make it look like he just ran away, seeing as he was a child who had anger outbursts, or so they say. But I have to question, what were these anger outbursts due to? Was it due to them, raising their voice at him? Was it because he was being molested and he didn't know how to tell anyone? And is that where he learned these sexually explicit, things that he said to a student in his homeschooling group? I mean, you have to ask these questions, because I don't think children just learn these things. I mean, they don't do these things unless they're, taught, or unless they see this going on in their, home, or the people that they're around on a constant basis. So all of these questions have to be asked. So that is a good question. Where did he learn these behaviors? I also have to wonder and ask the question of, did he have any visible marks or scars on him that would indicate him being abused at the time of his going missing?
13. Nearly a decade and a half later, the search for Jaliek Rainwalker continues tonight in the Collar City.
Crews were out this morning searching for evidence that might lead them to the missing boy. We have team coverage of this developing story this hour, and Stella Porter is live in Troy, where that search is taking place.
Mark Mulholland was the first to report today's breaking news. He joins us now live, and Mark has been following this, considering that this has been such a long time in the making. Mark, tell us a little bit about what they were hoping to find today.
Well, Rachel and Elaine, anything that would lead them to Jaliek Rainwalker or the person responsible for his death. They were out there first thing this morning. State police investigators searching 40 acres of a wooded preserve for clues related to Jaliek Rainwalker's disappearance and likely homicide. He was reported missing in November 2007, and state police say all signs point to Jaliek's adoptive father, Stephen Kerr. Over the past 14 and a half years, police have searched dozens of places throughout the region and followed hundreds of leads. The one today leading them to this wooded area off Thompson Street in South Troy. State Police Captain Rob Appleton wouldn't say exactly where today's lead came from, but says with time, sometimes people feel more comfortable and more free to offer more information.
Every once in a while, someone will feel, hey, I saw something back then, I wasn't really sure, and now have the confidence to come forward, and we're hoping that people have that confidence to come forward.
The captain says their search didn't turn up evidence today. Coming up at 6, how many of the investigators on the case take this one personally? Elaine and Rachel.
All right, Mark, thanks so much.
This is Katie Bonesteel, the lady that worked at the Red Robin restaurant as a server the day that Stephen and Jaliek were there. And she's the one who also witnessed that Jaliek was very uncomfortable with Stephen, and she thought that it was really weird. And she's also the one that noticed that Jaliek didn't really eat anything, from the meal that she had brought to the table, if he ate anything at all. And I'm pretty sure, she thinks about this quite often, because she wonders what if she had stepped in because she had saved him. And, I'm pretty sure that, there was nothing that she could do. And she did everything that she could in her power. But as far as Mr. Stephen Kerr and Miss Jocelyn McDonald, I think that a closer look needs to be taken, at both of them, even though police feel like they have, reason to believe that Mr. Stephen Kerr is a person of interest. I feel like more of a look needs to be taken at his wife as well, Jocelyn McDonald, because I think that, she had a part in it. I don't know if she helped cover it up or get rid of, Jaliek's remains, or what may have happened that night. But I know that she has to know more than what she's told police. And hopefully one day they will be able to solve this mystery and be able to put Jaliek to rest where he deserves to be if he's not alive anymore. And I just think that as far as people who get these kids and use them for another source of income or what have you, those types of people are terribly wrong. And it should be handled in a different way to make sure that the money that is for these kids is used on these kids and only on them. But if you guys like this video, please don't forget to leave me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not already subscribed. And please leave me a comment down in the comment section below and let me know what you think about this case. And until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next one.